So, what are your thoughts towards racing here at Pocono? Is it one of your favorite tracks?
I like any track that my car handles well at.
Yeah.
Pocono's been pretty good to me over the years. I have a couple of ARCA wins here and sat on the pole here in the Cup Series quite a few years ago. And, it's a lot of fun to drive. I mean, it's definitely a lot different than any other ovals that we run. Having 3 corners instead of 4, and then also just being able to shift and do that thing kind of makes it a lot more unique.
Yeah, Rick had a few wins here back in the day. So do you have any, special memories when you come back to here?
I was so young when Rick was, still driving and really, running competitively here in the mid '80s. I was born in '78, so for sure I remember him having success at this place, and I remember my dad and him both talking about Pocono and what a unique and fast place it was because it's a pretty big track. For sure, I mean, I think I usually get caught up so much in what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, you don't reflect on that a whole lot, but definitely remember I'm talking about it at times.
Yeah, go back to your early days, Indy Lights days, like how are those days for you? How are those cars to drive, and how do you enjoy your time in that series?
I loved it. I loved the open wheel stuff. Honestly, growing up in a really open wheel / off-road family, that's what I really looked at, and stock car racing was really just something that I knew was going on, but it wasn't something I paid a whole lot of attention to, which is embarrassing to say because now I've been here for almost 15 years, but for sure the Indy Lights stuff was a lot of fun to drive. We had Team Mears, which was my dad and my uncle, tried to put something together along with Roger Penske, and we did that for a few years, and then I got a great opportunity with Dorcott Racing, and met some really good friends that I still have to this day with that team, and had a lot of success. I think we ever finished outside the top 3 the whole time we were with Dorcott Racing, so it was a really good experience, and then by the time I was talking about going into Indy cars was still it was debatable on whether or not the IRL or kart series was going to be the place to go, and I got an opportunity here, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. Who are some of your early mentors during that time?
I never really looked past my dad and my uncle. I mean, it was so hard to. I mean, if my dad and my uncle weren't as successful as they were, I probably would have been looking at other directions. But I always pulled for them so hard that I never really gave myself much room to even pay attention to other drivers. I just wanted them to get beat all the time. So it was, I followed them and listened to what they had to say, and that's kind of how I learned things.
You said you were going down an open wheel path. What was it about NASCAR that really turned you on? Why did you come over here?
Honestly, it was kind of a fluke deal. I was still pretty focused on going open wheel racing, and a guy that formerly used to work for Roger Penske was kind of partnering up with a guy named Wayne Jessel that was starting a Busch car at the time, and he knew that I was trying to decide whether I was going to go to kart, whether I was going to go to IRL, and out of the blue, he said, "Hey, you should come try this out."
Yeah.
And I came over and tried it out, and I haven't looked back. It's been a great experience for me, and I think the stock car racing really is a good blend of everything that I've done. It has some of the speeds that Indy cars have, but at the same time, you get to a place like Martinsville, even the road courses, some places where you can beat and bang a little bit, and it kind of reminds me of the off-road days. So definitely something that I didn't realize that I was going to enjoy as much as I do.
Yeah. Do you wish you got a little bit more building time before you got into the Cup Series or maybe Xfinity Series? Do you think maybe you got into it a little too quick and you didn't get that learning time?
At times, for sure. I hadn't driven the first stock car I ever drove was Sterling Marlin's stock car at a test one time. So the first stock car I ever drove was a Cup car, and I didn't grow up racing short tracks. I didn't grow up racing stock cars. So when I came over here, it was a huge learning curve. Just in understanding how heavy they are, how much you had to slow the cars down through the center of the corner to really make them work properly. I was always overdriving them. For years I overdrove these cars, and at times I do. At times I think that I came over here too early to the Cup Series with not enough experience. But I mean, clearly now I've been here for so long that I have a ton of experience. But I would say the early opportunities that I had with Ganassi and Hendrick, at that time I was still trying to sort through how to drive these cars, and I feel like I'm a better driver now than I ever have been in a Cup car.
Do you think it was a good time to get into the sport? Those early 2000s. Do you think it would have been different today if you were trying to get in from your experience?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that now, the rookies that come over here need to have a significant amount of experience in a stock car. That was a good time for me too, because they still had patience, with rookies. I think at that time it was expected for a rookie to struggle for 2 to 3 years and then get the experience and then finally move on. And Chip Ganassi was huge. I mean, he gave me a good 4 years in the sport and really let me get up to speed and learn a lot about it. So he was. I can't say that he was always as patient as I wanted him to be, but at the end of the day, he gave me a good 4 years, and he's a guy that I have to thank the most for getting this opportunity.
Was he like the first guy to offer you a ride? Was that really a high bar that you got?
I mean, I got an opportunity, with that Jessel Racing. It was well over Jessel at the time, and that was my first opportunity. But really, the Chip gave me my first real opportunity, and then stuck with me and really gave me the laps and the miles that I needed. Really learned a lot through him and his program. I think at his time, he was still fairly new in the Cup side of things. He needed someone young, to come in and be a part of his program, and I needed experience. So it kind of worked out for both of us, I think, at the time, and it was a fun experience. Now looking back on it, it was a really good opportunity.
Yeah. And now, when you joined Hendrick, how was the process like joining that team? Was it like a single phone call? Was it like something that took a while?
Well, I mean, at that time, it just there was a door that opened up, and I was looking to go a couple other places at the time. I actually wanted to stay with Ganassi. I didn't want to go anywhere, but at the time, the people were paying ridiculous amounts of cash at that time, and the economy was doing well. I think everybody in the world was making more than they should make at every single job, right? So, when a company like Hendrick and some other competitive teams called and, your salary was going to double, it was just hard not to pass up. And honestly, I really wanted to stay with Chip because he gave me that opportunity, but at the time they couldn't do what some of these other teams could do in that direction. So, when Hendrick came up as an opportunity, it was kind of a no-brainer to at least try it. And, at that time, I don't think that their stuff was as equal as they thought it was. Hendrick really, obviously the 48 and 24 were very competitive on a weekly basis. But the 525 shop was definitely a different story. And I don't think they understood, how far off some of those cars were as they were. But once I got in there and Darian Grubb became part of the program, about mid-season we built some new cars that matched the 48. And I'll never forget going to Texas and being quick time with our new car in practice and couldn't wait to qualify, but we were like 26th in points because of how we didn't run the first part of the year. And then we came back shortly after, 2 weeks later, to win the 600. We ran inside the top 5 all day and ended up winning the 600. So it was, once we got things right there, it was a lot of fun, but it was crazy because I thought at that point, I had something that was pretty solid. But then when Dale Jr. ended up coming over, they ended up taking Darian Grubb and making him his engineer. I ended up getting with the 5 team, and then we struggled, and then things changed, So for sure, timing is everything. And then, now being with Germain Racing, it's been a long building process to get to this point, but we're finally starting to get where we could probably do something, and really show people what we do.
Was there pressure when you were at Hendrick and then with RCR? Was there pressure for you to succeed?
There's always pressure. I mean, this is a performance-based sport, and if you don't do well, things change, and that's just the way it goes.
Can you compare, Rick Hendrick and Richard Childress, how they do business, how you enjoyed working with them?
Quite honestly, they're totally different. I got to do this deal here pretty quick. They're totally different in the way that they approach the sport. Obviously both successful in their own right. It's hard to really distinguish all the differences, but I'd say Richard Childress is more kind of good old boy, been doing it for years and relies on a lot of that background and history. And Rick is a guy that maybe doesn't run it himself as much, but does a really, really good job of surrounding himself with the right people to make the right decisions. And, there's business people that do things differently, but I think with Rick, handling everything as a mass, as a whole, as he does with his dealerships and his race teams, you got to be a guy that, recognizes talent and puts the right people in the right place, and that's one thing he does well.
And last question, just talk about, Germain Racing. You've been with this team for a long time, been with Rudy Walker for a long time. What's it about this team that's really such a great fit for you?
Well, I mean, at the time, it was, they were trying to find themselves, figure out where they were going to go. At the time that when I was with RCR, and then Jack Daniels left. That left us in it left me in a place late in the season without an opportunity. And at that time it was a good fit. I needed a spot, and they needed somebody to help guide them in the right direction. And it's been a long process to get to this point, but now we've finally gotten it to where I think we can go and compete well. Yeah. And we've grown together. I feel like I've been a huge part in getting the team to this point. They've been a huge part in helping me learn more, understand about the sport, because I had to be more directly involved with everything, not just the driving end of it. That's been a big learning process, and I think that because of that, I'm a better driver than I ever have been. Really learning and understanding more, in particular about the cars, about what happens behind the scenes to make a team work. Being a part of a lot of those decisions, I think, has made me a better driver than I ever have been. So I think as we get these cars better and as we get more competitive, I think that we'll be able to show people what we can do.
All right. Definitely appreciate your time.
All right, man.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Yeah.